Now that we've walked through how to configure exclusions for risks, next we can talk about risk tuning and adjustment there. So to access where you can adjust or tune your risk scans, and this is great for if you're running into issues with false positives because certain keywords or phrases are getting flagged incorrectly, or if you need to make even adjustments to the machine learning risk, this is how you'll go ahead and do so. So there's two ways to access this section. The first of those is if you come over to enabled risks here and click on the small gear wheel icon. And if you click on the edit risks button here, that's going to go ahead and access the data management section of the platform where all the risk scans will be available to take a look at. Now you can also toggle risk scans on or off from right here as well too. Anything with a checkmark box next to it is going to be currently turned on within this particular environment. Anything with no checkmark box there is currently turned off. If you are running into a situation where you decide, hey, this risk scan just isn't serving me well, I just want to go ahead and turn it off, you certainly can use this to go ahead and do that as well. The risk tuning here will be a little bit more advanced than that, and we'll get into some more details that way. The second way to do that is to come over to the left-hand side here and click the drop-down arrow there next to admin, or just on admin itself. You're going to want to head into data management here, and that's going to take you again to that risk section for data management. If you happen to just click on admin here, no worries there. You can also go ahead and click into it via the risk button right here under data management again. Once you're in this section, you're going to see a long list of different risk scans here. Some things will have red icons next to them to indicate that that risk scan is currently turned off. Anything with a green icon means that that risk scan is currently turned on. You also have the ability to toggle on and off risk scans in bulk here by clicking the checkmark icons or just clicking one, and then coming up here to the actions button right next to the search bar. So first one here allows you to turn the risk scan on. It's going to be the enable button. Second one here is going to turn the risk scan off. That's the disable button. You can disable or enable any of the risk scans in here as well too. Again, you're going to want to be careful. Just don't go through and turn on risk scans at will. You're going to want to make sure you're looking at what the keywords are, what's going to potentially get flagged in there. If you just turn the risk scan on, you sometimes will get a lot of false positives very quickly. Some of the risk scans need a little bit of adjustment before they'll give you really good, accurate information. So we certainly want to try to avoid giving you a bunch of false positives right away. So definitely make sure you work to get those risk scans adjusted ahead of time before turning something on. And if you need assistance with that, that's where the customer success and support team are happy to assist you to make sure your risk scans are going to be performing well, and walk you through that adjustment process as well. So the last icon here is the clear icon. So this is more of an uncommon thing you might use, but if you're running into a situation where a bunch of things have gotten flagged as risk and you want to just completely do a complete clear out of the risk scan, you can use this clear button. Now this one is just available for one risk scan at a time, so to keep that in mind, but that will clear out all the risk scans of that type, and then you can really start that risk scan over. It is advised if you're going to clear something out and you want to keep that risk scan on, you may want to make some adjustments to that risk scan ahead of time as well too, or after the fact, so that you can go ahead and ensure that it's not going to keep flagging incorrect information or anything like that. To edit or modify a risk scan, all you have to do is click on the name of the risk or on the edit pencil icon here. For any custom risk scans, you can outright delete those risk scans if needed as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the self-harm machine learning model, and we'll talk about machine learning risks to start off with first, and how adjustments work with those. So very first thing here is going to be the title of the risk. That's just what the risk is called here. Next to that is going to be a description of the risk in question. There's going to be a status section here, so you can also turn risk scans on and off by actually going into the risk scan itself. So you can disable it, enable it. The SAS connected with risk is really important. That's which environments are connected to the risk scan. So if you've got multiple environments like Google and Microsoft, you're going to want to make sure that both environments are connected to that risk scan in question. If you have also a split environment, you also will want to make sure each of those environments have the correct risk scans turned on. You don't need to worry about the risk daily limit or the scan shared file here, or even the self-harm ML size. What we're going to be focusing on here is the self-harm ML risk parameters. So the default configuration for self-harm ML will actually be 75 here, but you may see 70, it just depends on your environment there. And then these numbers here, especially on the low end, can be adjusted up or down. The high end here, 100 is the highest that the risk scan goes, so nothing can go above 100, but especially on the low end, even to the medium end to a degree as well too, you can do some adjustments here. Really on the low end though, that's where the primary adjustments are going to take place. So to adjust up, you would increase this value here. So if it was at 75, you could say move it up to 76 or 77. You want to probably adjust it in small increments rather than large increments, unless you're seeing a really large number of false positives. Generally speaking though, I'd recommend pretty small increments to adjust up if you're going to go ahead and do that. You can also adjust down. So if you say, I feel like I'm missing some things, or maybe there's some false negatives, you can come in here and actually lower that number as well. Now you may get some more false positives as well too. The broader the risk scan is, the more potential false positives, but that's the way you can adjust it both up or down, and that's based on the number values here. So if 75 here was our default, you can adjust up or down depending on that as well too. So definitely a really handy way if you do need to make some adjustments. Again, don't feel like you have to do this yourself here. If you've got questions, you need assistance, definitely make sure you reach out, and we're happy to assist you with that process as well too. And this will be the same process too for toxicity risk ML. Image risk ML is different. That's going to be already set to the highest likelihood, so there's not as much tweaking that can be done on that. And that's where, again, the false positive button really comes into play, or even exclusions will come into play to be very helpful to deal with things on that end. For the more phrase-based risk scans or regex-based risk scans, you'll have some more options there as well too. Other thing to note too is the platform does support custom risk scans. So if you feel like there is something that you're not getting flagged here that you need to get flagged, the plus icon here in the upper right-hand corner will allow you to create a blank risk. It'll create a blank risk template for you, and then you can go ahead and create your own risk scan. You're not expected to create that on your own. If you need assistance with doing that, let us know. We're happy to help you with creating custom risk scans at any point there. I'm going to go ahead and use the spoofing risk as just an example here. So here again, you'll see same information with the title, description, status there. So you can again switch it to being enabled or disabled. There's going to be the SAS connected with risk, so that'll let you know which environments it's connected with. Again, really important to make sure you're connecting these, especially if you're creating a custom risk scan. To the correct environment there. You don't want to leave it not connected to anything. It won't let you save in that case then. So really important to make sure you connect that. The keywords here are going to be what the specific keywords in question that are going to get flagged. Multiple here can be comma separated. You can put a lot of different words in here as well too. The risk regex is going to be regex patterns. It's going to be an or here. You can't have both keywords and regex. It's got to be either keywords or regex. If you're not familiar with regex and need help there, we're certainly happy to assist you with the regex patterns as well too. But certainly regex is another option you have. Below that will be the allowed words. So these are specific phrases that you want to make sure you're allowing through, or specific regex patterns you want to make sure you're allowing through. So for example, we have a risk scan that's called aggressive behavior. It's not one that you necessarily need to turn on at all, but there's a phrase in there that commonly gets flagged, like shoot us an email or shoot me a text or something like that. And that's something where, because it's looking for just a specific phrase, in that case, shoot me or shoot us or something like that, it's not going to go ahead and see the rest of the context, and that allowed words will help it see the rest of the context and ignore the phrase as a result. So it's a way where you can really kind of ignore some things that way and avoid issues with some risk scanning in the beginning with those false positives there. And that's similar with the allowed regex, but just for regex patterns instead. Choose file won't be relevant here in this case. This is great for custom risk scans if you want to make a comma separated CSV and then upload the list of the risks. That way you can certainly do that. Risk matches count here will be important. So that's the number of keywords or number of matches that the regex pattern has found within a piece of content. So it's going to always default to 1, but you can always increase that value. And that's a really easy way to avoid some false positives. Anytime there's more than one thing that has to be in a piece of content, that's going to lower the number of risk scans. Now, that may not always make sense and may not be something that you need to do, but if it's something where you say, hey, my focus is really more on not just a one-off instance of this, but multiple instances of something happening, you're definitely going to want to use the risk matches count. And you can start off small. Even just adjusting up to something like 2 is really going to help increase the accuracy there for sure. Next here, you'll have context and context check length. So these are going to work together. Context are additional phrases or keywords that have to exist within the same piece of content. So instead of it just being a simple one-off where maybe it's an inappropriate word or something like that, maybe it has to be someone actually insulting somebody. For some of our risk scans like FERP and IEP, it might be additional parameters like looking for words like date of birth or progress report or other things of that nature there that's trying to indicate that, yes, this is actually an IEP rather than just the word IEP by itself there. So the context words are really helpful because they're trying to look more for, is this actually what you're intending it for to flag? It's not just a singular mention of that keyword, it's actually the correct context there. And then context check length is the number of characters between the keywords and the context words. That can be adjusted a lot, so it's a pretty broad number value you can set there. If you leave it blank, it's going to be anywhere. So the keywords and the context words could be anywhere between each other. And the context also works with the regex patterns too. So if you're looking at creating some context check length, if you want to keep it more narrow, I'd recommend between 25 to 30. That's a good example there. So you could plug in 25 here, you could plug in 30 here. If you keeping it more broad, where you say, yes, I want to make sure that this is relatively close together, but they don't need to be extremely close together, you could go as broad as, say, 60. Though generally speaking, I recommend keeping the context check length if you are trying to tighten things up a little bit on the lower side. Broader the context check lengths, the more potential risks will get flagged that may not be correct there. Just kind of one of the nature of things there. Once you've made all of your changes that you need to, you're going to want to make sure you press the save button. The save button is really important there. Always press the save button if you make any changes to any of the risk scans here or whatever you're doing. If you don't press the save button, it's not going to confirm any of your changes there, and you'll lose all the progress you made there. Lastly here too, don't feel like you have to tune the risk scans on your own. The customer success team, customer support team are happy to assist you to go through things and tune those risks with you. Risk tuning is a little bit more complicated for sure. We've got a lot of great knowledge on our end to help you get those risk scans in order there, make sure they're flagging things correctly for you, or maybe if there's a new risk scan where you say, hey, it'd be great if the platform could flag that, we're happy to assist you with that as well too. So next we're going to be talking about policies and looking at how policies can be created to help alert you about specific risk scans you're concerned about, talk about directionality with that, and then also how you can create your own custom policies, get remediation set, and all that as well too.